G'day and welcome to the Genre Fiction Podcast. I'm Jack Roney.
And I'm Harry Colfer.
And in this episode, we are introducing our special guest, author Michael Cologne, who's coming to us from the Big Apple, New York City, United States of America. So, here, where it's a Saturday morning, where you're coming from, Mike, is a Friday night. But welcome.
Welcome. Yes, thank you for having me on. It's definitely an honor to speak to the Australian audience. This will be the first podcast that is international for me. So I've been really excited about this leading up to this moment.
Excellent. It's our pleasure to have you. We're really keen to chat with authors and industry experts from around the world. We've had other guests from the United States and the UK and around Australia, and it's really good networking and cross-pollination of ideas and to sort of get a sense of where the industry is heading in other countries. So let's kick off and talk about your debut novel. It's called The Gift From Aelius, is a futuristic sci-fi about the interaction between AI robots and humans. So for anyone interested in reading The Gift From Aelius, can you tell us what readers might expect from your book?
Yes, so I would expect the readers to definitely gain a sense of deep introspection, um, more specifically, introspection towards the meaning of life. Um, a lot of the themes of this book, even though it is a sci-fi tale and it has plenty of adventure and action in it, there's a lot of self-reflecting, especially with the main character and the main character's goal being A191. He wants to unite the two dominant species of the world and end this dystopian era. So I would definitely want the reader to get that satisfaction of entertainment from like a pure sci-fi perspective. But I would also want the reader to like really internalize the messages that are being given, which is, you know, finding your purpose, the meaning of life, and that we all have gifts to share. It's probably not going to be A191's gift, but we all have something to contribute. So I would definitely want the reader to walk away from this story thinking, what can I contribute to society?
Very cool. And we'll delve into that a little bit later on. We'll talk about sort of the underlying themes, but these themes are largely conveyed through your main character, who's called A191, who is a codex or a robot, so to speak, with artificial intelligence. So tell us a little bit about your main character and he or she or they, how do they convey some of the underlying themes of your story?
Yes. So the funny thing about that is when I first started writing, like my creative process to think of, okay, the Codex race, should they just be the usual robots that don't really have a lot of, gender traits or their own individuality? But I wanted to be creative and kind of give them that distinctiveness. So the main character is a he. Um, and yeah, like a lot of A191's journey or like his purpose in the story is, he's a dreamer. He's a character that wants to see, the rest of the world, and a lot of the things that he goes through in his city called Paradise um, kind of handicaps him from him wanting to be his true self, which is, have freedom of thought, and being able to express his feelings in the society that he's more or less trapped in.
And was there any one particular, again, we'll delve into this in a little bit more detail, but just in relation to this particular story, was there any one observation of the world that spawned the initial idea of the story? Something that you talked about, addressing what's happening in our world and how you can kind of fictionalize that and retell that in a futuristic setting. Was there any one thing that really, if you track it back and think that was the catalyst, that was the trigger point that spawned this idea for the story? What was there such a time when this idea first took place?
I wouldn't say it was one specific idea. I would say a lot of my motivation for that is kind of looking at how, like most societies, especially societies that don't have a voice, certain cultures, certain groups of people, kind of throughout history, like you have groups of people that were kind of confined to the ignorances either of their culture or their government, which still goes on today. And a lot of what you read in the story mirrors that. So I would say it's a culmination of just how societies and civilizations throughout history kind of had that issue.
Okay, interesting. Now, the book cover, when we edit this and put it up on YouTube, we'll put the book cover up on the screen for people to see it. But it's an excellent, really catching cover, which really conforms to the sci-fi genre. And you've also, I see on your website, you produced a little video trailer as well. Can you just talk us through the production of your book cover and the video trailer?
Yeah, so definitely big thanks to my publisher. He pretty much uh, designed the majority of the cover. I mean, I gave my input, but he worked his magic. Terry Wright from TWB Press, and he also made the video, the trailer. Uh, but yeah, I would say the cover, which I actually have right here for the audience to see.
Yes, perfect.
Hey.
There we go.
Yeah, that's great.
Um, yeah, so the cover it's symbolic of the overall theme of the story. You have the Codex unit shaking hands with man, and then you have the desert in the background, which also symbolizes, when a Codex is banished uh, because of too many infractions. That's kind of where they wander until they perish. So I would say the book cover kind of fits the overall theme of the story, which is great. And the trailer, yeah, I fell in love with the trailer right away when it was made. I felt like it really pulled in my curiosity to like want to read this book. So yeah, I'm definitely grateful for the publisher for designing the book cover and making the video.
Obviously, AI is a huge theme at the moment. It's sort of really taken on since Chat GPT. There's everyone's talking about AI and the risks of AI and all that sort of stuff. When did you start writing your book?
I started working on it about a year ago.
Oh, right. So
Uh,
was it spawned or some of it spawned by the fears of AI that have been sort of are current?
um, I wouldn't say it was spawned by the fears of AI and like maybe the direction that AI is going. A lot of the story kind of gives more of a consciousness to the codex units. Like,
Yeah.
you know, um, they have their own personality, especially the main character. And throughout the story, you learn that these codex units have the human essence in them because they're made in the image of man. So I would say for AI in general, whether it's Chat GPT or other AI programs that are going on now, I can understand why people may be intimidated by, what can come forth as it continues to evolve, and it's evolving very quickly. But I don't think it's like the movies like Terminator, where like Skynet is going to attack, and we all have. I think it's more of it could be a gift for us and kind of propel us to how our species does in the future. It may end up being a blessing, but it all depends on how we go about the evolution of AI. Um, yeah, I would say that depending on how we mature as a species is what AI will do for our world.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, the purpose of this story is to kind of give like another perspective to like you know um, artificial intelligence. I wanted to add more of a consciousness, more philosophy.
Yeah.
That yeah, even though it is a robot in essence, like there's a soul. And in order for artificial intelligence to be aware, there has to be that soul element. And, the way I look at things is the more sophisticated, the soul is, you know, the better off, a particular species may be able to interface or interact with the world and with each other.
It definitely raises a lot of questions around, at what point does consciousness become real? The AI, and as we start to push the envelope, what will be the difference between the human mind and an AI mind, and where do the two intersect in terms of how do you define consciousness and the soul?
Yeah, I mean it's a very deep line of thinking to kind of follow through with. AI is going to continue to advance, but so should we as people. No matter what part of the world you're from, like we all should eventually get to a place where where a lot of the issues that we face uh, are starting to minimize, and we won't have to worry about AI as much if we're able to get a grasp on our own issues as mankind.
Were you a cheeky question? Were you tempted to use ChatGPT to help with the writing?
Oh, never, never. I'm sorry. I mean, listen. It has its purposes. It has its importance. So, I would say like if you want to edit something
Yeah.
and you want to edit something in a hurry, that's fine. My wife is a teacher, so she has a lot of grading and a lot of work that she has to be done. So I could definitely understand it being used as a tool for like certain things. But I feel like if you're going to create art, which when you write, whether it's an essay or a poem or a book, like that's art. Like you shouldn't have to rely. And I know a lot of people who probably use ChatGPT are hating what I'm saying right now, but you know, I'm sorry. Like if when you create art, it should come from the soul. It should come from your heart.
Yeah, I mean, my personal viewpoint is that effectively, currently, the AI systems are actually plagiarism systems, and they're very much weighted towards Western output. And so you're getting a very westernized view of the world when you're using these software. I mean, obviously the new Chinese one may have a different bent on what's happening, but obviously again that's going to have a very much sort of like doctored output. And so yeah, if you want to be actually creative, because at the end of the day, Amazon now has a clause when you upload an ebook saying, "Have you used AI to create this?" And you've got to tick
Yes.
so and realistically, how long will it be before ticking that box means you don't get or you get less money back from Amazon because you didn't create it?
Mm.
No, and I completely agree. I again I do feel like a lot of AI softwares does have its benefits and purpose, but you know, if I mean, for all that, I would have finished the book, you know, a while ago. I was, I'm a firm believer of, like it's art. I look at this as art,
Mm,
and if you know, a painter shouldn't paint a canvas with the help of, an AI program. You know, now I mean, you do have graphic design tools to help with that, of course, but again, like most of the work and the creative thought process should come from the person behind the tools.
mm, yeah.
Yep, agreed. Now, Mike, I'd just like to look at your own personal background and how you came to writing. So, I believe you're born and bred in New York. New York. What is your background, and how did you come to start writing?
Yeah, so born and raised in New York City. I live in the Bronx. That is the borough that I am from, and yeah, I would say I started taking writing seriously about 3 or 4 years ago. I've always had a very uh, natural kind of inclination towards it, throughout, grammar school, high school. Um, but I never really like, I wanted to play basketball. So like I never really thought about being a writer or an author. Um, but I started taking it more serious because I feel like as you get older and as you learn more about yourself, you start to see like the gifts and like how it could be used, not just to express yourself, but like, for others. And I started writing, blogs, essays, poetry at first. And when I noticed that started to get accepted, I was like, okay, let's continue this and see where it goes. And I always had ideas for books as I was writing, building my portfolio. Whether it was being published in magazines or other digital platforms. Um, but I was kind of just seeing how far this could go, and I'm kind of glad that I'm still on that journey because I was able to get my first book deal. So um, yeah, a lot of the reasoning that I got into creative writing also is I feel like it's a very natural way for me to communicate with others. Um, I always had a hard time, being in social settings, public speaking. Uh, if you would have asked me 5 or 6 years ago to even be on a podcast, it would have been very hard for me. I didn't really have a lot of confidence in myself. I always had a hard time speaking, so it's a lot of things I had to overcome with that. So writing kind of gave me the outlet to be my true self and be able to share with the world or just with, whether it's one or two people at that time or dozens of people, this is me and this is pretty much like the pieces of me that I want to express to you, but I want to do it in this format. So I know I'm not the only one, and a lot of the people that I speak to who read, different whether it's like a poem or this book, um, I'm able to relate to like a certain crowd where like their art form is their way of communicating or interfacing with the world.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, I'm surprised that someone from New York ever had any difficulty talking, but the the often something we've mentioned is that unfortunately authors have to get over the tapping away in a tiny little room somewhere and actually get out and sell themselves because otherwise you're not going to succeed in people buying your books until you
No,
actually put yourself out there.
no, I completely agree, and that's something I'm very adamant about. Like, you have to put yourself out there. Like, you, it could be scary, but at the end of the day, like, what's the point of getting a book published if you're not gonna like show it to other people? Like, other people
Yeah.
have to see it, like you hit it right on the head. Like, you can't just stay in your bedroom and hit the publish button and say, okay, I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
it kind of, you have to market yourself.
Mm.
You have to, reach out to podcasts, you know, uh, do author events at libraries or bookstores. I actually have my first book signing in Staten Island in April, which I'm very excited about. And again, like the old Mike would have been terrified to grab a microphone, and I would have been my legs would have been shaking. But at the end of the day, like you have to focus on why you're doing this.
Yeah.
It's you're expressing your passion and you're sharing your passion, and if you focus on that, it'll be much easier. And of course, through repetition,
Yeah.
you got to get your reps in, and it becomes more natural. I mean, look, I'm still learning. I'm still new to this process. I've been an author for 2 months, but you teach yourself along the way, and you become more comfortable with the different outlets that it takes to uh, push your art out there.
Yeah, I remember the first time I had to do a public speaking was at a conference at university, and yeah, there was all this free food on, and I couldn't eat because I was so sick. I was, and there's probably a couple of hundred people in the audience, and I had to go and tell them about my research, and oh my God, I was so scared and just pouring with sweat and shaking and for to go from that to then to be where I am now, where I can just sort of like basically talk to anyone and just chat. There's a friend who has the three-step to giving a talk, or planning a talk, and it's the three steps you take before you walk into the room. And basically, yeah, I'm now at the point where if somebody wants me to talk about my books or my authoring or my job and things like that, I was like, yeah, no worries, I'll just come in and talk. Don't particularly have to plan things and the like. Obviously, if I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation, I will plan that a bit. But
Well, I've got a
No,
speaking event. Sorry, I've got a speaking event tomorrow, and it's potentially going to be quite a big one up on stage in a theatre. And I've been nervous for weeks, and it's all coming to. I just hope I don't have a deer on the headlights moment tomorrow when I'm finally there.
I think the important thing is, even though I say that I could go up there and I can talk to a few hundred people now from where I was, where I'm not shitting bricks for want of the phrase, um, uh, I still feel anxious. And but now I recognize that's my body preparing myself, and I don't freak out by starting to feel anxious. I recognize that I start pacing up and down, my hands start sort of getting a bit moist, and my heart's going a bit. But all you've got to do is go, this is natural because you're putting yourself out there, and you've just got to say, yep, embrace that because it's your body just preparing you to go in. Because if you go in too relaxed, you're probably just going to make a fool of yourself.
I agree. And a lot of what you're describing is it's normal. That's our defense systems.
Yeah, yeah,
Like that's the fight or flight
yeah,
mechanism to a
yeah,
lesser
yeah,
degree. You know, people aren't naturally used to going up, either on a podium or wherever you may be in front of a lot of people.
yeah.
Like your defense signals are going to start ringing off, and yeah, no, I completely agree with everything that you said. But you've been doing it, and that's a lot of the reason why you're able to
Yeah.
do public speaking more comfortably, is because you put in the time. And the first steps are always the hardest, but it's like anything you work on. Once you gain that traction, and you do these things more often, it becomes like riding a bike.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't have it all. I'm not a pro at this yet. I'm still learning. But the one thing that I can say is, like, the first steps are very crucial, and you have to overcome that initial fear of, what are they thinking? How do I sound? All those thoughts. And yeah, so just remember why you're there. And most of the people are there for a reason. Like, they're not watching you by accident. Like, they want to hear what you do have to say,
Yeah.
even though their faces might say otherwise. But you know you kind of have to overlook that.
Yeah.
And Mike, just going back to what you said before about what got you writing, I really resonate with what you said when I think you said it was your way, writing was your way to be your true self and to communicate, or to have your voice. It gave you a voice in the format that you chose. And I think Harry and I can both resonate with that in terms of why we both started writing. I was a police officer, and I had all these stories that I wanted to tell, and I was carrying around all this dark stuff, and Harry was the same. So I think, and another thing I've often said is, look, I didn't start writing until I was sort of in, well, I'm in my 50s now. I was probably in my 40s when I started writing. And some people start when they're teenagers or when they're young children, but everyone's got a different story as to what was the thing that got them writing. And I often say that I started writing when I felt I had something to say and that I'd had enough life experience. And then, as you said, Mike, that writing was my way. I always felt that when I was a police officer, that was the facade, it was the persona that I was projecting, but it wasn't necessarily who I really was as a person. And when I started writing, I could start to be myself. So I really resonate with the way you've explained the reason why you've started writing.
No, and that's amazing. Even just hearing that, it gives me more perspective about, like, other people's journeys. And there's no timeline. Like, we all go through different seasons of our life.
Mm.
uh, your career as a police officer, at that time, that was the path for you. And like you said, like, there may come points in our lives where we have to walk a new path. And for us, it just happened to be writing. Growing up where I grew up, in the Bronx, I grew up around a lot of people who they didn't feel like they had a voice or it wasn't important. And especially for me, how I was raised, a single parent household, going through a lot of struggle financially, I never wanted to kind of be a product of my environment. And, my mom always taught me, never be a follower and always be yourself. And that's one of the things that always stuck with me. Like, be yourself. Nobody's perfect. You're not going to be perfect at anything that you do, but be yourself, be unique. And I feel like a lot of my journey from writing stems from that too, which is, finding my voice and not just finding it, but embracing it and being okay with it. And yeah, I definitely could relate to what you said as well. When you finally have things to say, that's when you manifest the beautiful art that we create. We don't, an artist doesn't create something waking up out of bed on a random day without any motivation, like usually there has to be something behind it. So, yeah, no,
Sometimes it's
that's
a
pretty cool
publisher saying there's a deadline.
Yeah, it could be that. Yeah, there's definitely outside elements that could light the fire. Yeah, no,
You
I
said you'd have
definitely
it done by now.
agree. Well, what's funny about that? With my publisher, I was the one who was like kind of saying, "Oh, is it almost done? Like, are we gonna go on to the next process?" When I got the yes, so to speak, I was in a Starbucks and I almost dropped my coffee on the floor. I was like, "Oh my God!" I mean, I always had the feeling that he was gonna go along and want to publish the story, but with publishers and agents, they try to keep you on the hook. Like they don't want to just give you that yes. They kind of want to, let. I'm not sure yet, but it's pretty cool, and it's an interesting story, but we still got some things to sort out. I think that's their way of saying, we like it, but we don't want to tell you yes right away. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a process.
I actually sort of a total tick for this whole podcast now. I actually have got, or we got a New Yorker to say coffee. But anyway, um, but my missus would say to me, because I'd say, oh, I'm a self-published author, and I was banging on about I need to get this book out by the end of November, so that I've got it for the December sales and stuff like that. And she'd be like going, you don't need to. And I'm like, yeah, but the publisher wants me. She's like, "Yeah, you're the publisher." Yeah,
Exactly.
I was the one pushing it because at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure because I've so far since publishing my first novel, I've had a book out every year, which for if you're going traditional, that's difficult because the whole process can take over a year just from the inception and well, just from having the first draft, it can take a whole year to actually get it published, or more. I've heard of people with, a traditional publisher, it's taken 15 years for them to get the book out. But my personal thing is that I just want to get it out each year. Now, I mean, I'll have to see how that next year goes. I've sort of done a lot of ticks and a lot of boxes done, but yeah, a lot of that sort of drive does come from the individual, or has to come from the individual to be at the end of the day. Even if you're traditionally published, the onus is on the individual, the author, because publishers have other authors.
No,
You're not
I
that
agree.
special.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go the self-publishing route, you really have to make sure you have the resources because
Yeah.
you're the author, you're the publisher, you're the marketer, you're the art designer. So you're putting on a lot of hats.
Oh yeah.
I was definitely thinking about going the self-publishing route for this book, but again, you kind of have to like know and be realistic with yourself and say, you know what, you know, it works for some people, and it's definitely like the direction of like the book publishing world. Like self-publishing on Amazon is, big now. And it's a great opportunity for people to like put their art out there. But at the same time, like if you're gonna go that route, you definitely have to make sure you have a plan in place, you have the finances, because marketing is not cheap. I mean, you do have free platforms, but like if you really want to get your book out there, like you have to, you have to spend money to make money, as the saying goes.
Yeah,
so
unfortunately.
Yeah, and I agree. Like with the if you go the traditional route, that publisher is working with other clients too. So your book may be like on the list at the bottom of the list, and they're working with authors that may be a little bit more marketable, or they just happen to get to them first. So luckily for me, my publisher, Terry Wright from TWB Press, it's like a small / mid-sized press. It's not like a huge publishing house. So it wasn't like I didn't have to deal with a lot of what you mentioned. But at the same time, like, there was a process. Like, okay, we have to do this version editing, and now you have to send me the PDF file, and now I have to reread the whole story again and send it back to you. And it was pretty much like a lot of that until, but at the end of the day, like, I kind of enjoyed it because like I enjoy like hard work, and at the end of the day, it's only going to make the story more refined. And this guy knows a lot more. He's been in the game for a lot longer, so I was learning from him and taking that opportunity to just refine my craft as a writer.